Cumberland this week, or in Allegheny this week. Monday was actually in Frostburg, where we did door-to-door all day long. My legs showed it at the end of the day. Those are hilly roads to go up and down all day. First, I want to emphasize, though, that I'm not a politician. I've never been a politician. This is the first time I'm running for office. I think that's a good thing. I think Washington is broken today, and if I had my way, I would actually throw everyone out of town and start over again. I think that the Constitution originally was organized so that it was regular people that came together for Congress and went home to their real jobs the rest of the time when they were not doing whatever they needed to do for governance of the country. And so I am a regular person. I have come from an education background. Both of my parents were teachers. My mother was an English teacher in high school and probably the best teacher Santa Barbara ever had. She was still teaching one day a week in her 90s. I kept telling her, don't you want to just sort of quit and relax? And her response was no, she wanted to do the one day a week thing, and that was what she did. I said, okay, you're 90, you get to do what you want. My father was a professor at the University of California in Santa Barbara all of his life, specialized in serious esoteric things. The first book that I helped him proofread was a dissertation on Longfellow's translations of Dante's Vita Nuova. We're talking serious esoteric stuff here. And he actually was awarded a honorary medal from Italy for doing that translation of Dante. I'm running for Congress because I think this district has a lot of problems. I think our country has a lot of problems, and I cannot sit back any longer while these problems worsen, and I have some things to contribute to help them. First, let me start with national security. I have worked in national security all my life. I have started that actually from the day I got out of college, and I believe that I am watching our national security posture deteriorate on almost a daily basis today. Our stature in the world has really disintegrated in the last 8 years, and I think we need to do something about it. I think we are actually worried about our own safety in this country, and with good reason. The threats are increasing. They have changed our lives. They have changed the way we look at the world. I think we now go to crowded places feeling a little more insecure than we did a decade ago. I actually have one of my staff guys who ran in a marathon and was actually concerned at the starting line and the finish line. After all, we did have the Boston Marathon bomber. I was actually in Boston that day. That's where my son and grandson live. We have a lot of threats to deal with as a nation. There's ISIS, of course. There's Iran. There is North Korea, which has 3 times in the last month threatened to put a nuclear weapon on Washington and are very close to a capability to do that should they choose. And I think that there are several things that this administration has done that do not help our national security posture at all. I'll start with the Iran deal, which I think is probably the worst mistake this country has made in a long time. We can get into details on why I feel that if you want. I have several papers on my website on that matter. As I said, though, I have worked in national security all my life. My technical expertise is in nuclear, chemical, and biological warfare defense. I've written a number of books on Soviet strategy back in the Cold War, on the evolution of Soviet thought about nuclear war, on how to conduct a war in Europe, on intelligence analysis, on chemical and biological warfare defense, and all of that. I was President Reagan's Deputy Undersecretary of the Army, where I ran all the Army research and development and much of their procurement for close to 7 years. Domestically, we also have a lot of problems. The first is that jobs and businesses have been flying out of our district. And this administration has made it worse here in Allegheny with its war on coal. I think we need to reverse that. I think we need to get the government out of the business of subsidizing various forms of energy production and allow the marketplace to get back into controlling that. I would support ending the war on coal. I would support opening up the business again, and I would reject the carbon tax. I have a different approach, though, to job creation in Allegheny County altogether. I think we need to diversify the economy. I'll try to bring back coal as much as I can, but I also want to do other things to facilitate the growth of business here. One of the things I hope to do is to bring together businesses to help get broadband expanded here. And I can do this partly because of my husband's connection with Qualcomm. He's been with Qualcomm since the beginning of its start about 31 years ago. So I know all the people in the major provider companies in Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and those sorts of companies. I want to bring them together in a forum to discuss how we can have a cooperative venture to bring more broadband out here to Allegheny. I also want to work to bring cybersecurity jobs to this area of my district. There is a great cybersecurity program at Frostburg University. The problem is those folk graduate and there are no jobs. I've been in touch with several cybersecurity firms that I know based on my defense work of many years, and I have talked to them about coming out here, and if there is a broadband basis for them to come out here, they are willing to come out and work and then provide some of the jobs to those young graduates out of Frostburg. Finally, in working on the economic redevelopment, we can't do this well without fixing some of the transportation infrastructure. There are lots of infrastructure needs that have not been addressed in the last 4 years and really need to be. I am working at the moment on a comprehensive plan to address those needs throughout the whole district. I need to work with Governor Hogan to get rid of the scoring bill, or at least revise how that's done in Annapolis, because it negatively affects what we can do for highway infrastructure funding. I think we also need to look at the allocation within the state budget of money supporting various transportation. Now, the transportation bill got passed in Congress, and so the total number of dollars for total transportation federal dollars is now fixed for 5 years, but the allocation is not entirely fixed and will be a function of what happens in the Transportation Committee. Maryland, unfortunately, will have no one in that committee with the departure of Donna Edwards, and that's certainly one of the committees that I would ask to serve on. As you probably know, I have been endorsed by Governor Hogan, and we are working on a joint comprehensive transportation plan, which should be announced fairly shortly. It includes things such as adding some funds for Route 220 out here. I know that that's narrow. I know that it takes a lot of big trucks today and needs some real help. I'll also support small businesses. I've been a very successful small business owner and grower for over 22 years now. And I am very happy with how I can do it, but I know all the regulations that I fight to be successful in that, both state and federal. And I want to help reduce those regulations. Governor Hogan has done a very good start at this here in Maryland, but I think there needs to be more in the state and there needs to be more in the federal in terms of production of regulations. I've also been endorsed by the National Federation of Independent Businesses because I've shown them what I've done with my company, and they think I can help other companies do the same thing. Let me also conclude by telling you that I'm also a mother and a grandmother. I have been a strong advocate of women throughout my career, but I've only raised boys. I have one son of my own, and I raised 5 stepsons. I'd be interested for all of you who have raised girl children and boy children. I'm told it's different, but I have been doing fine with the boys. But I take women's advocacy very seriously. When I started in the defense business, there were almost no senior women in that business. The first professional meeting I went to was 3,000 men and me. I actually had a very good time. But it wasn't what I wanted ultimately. I had a lot of great male mentors, but I missed not having a woman I could talk to in the business about business things. So I've considered it a moral obligation to mentor the younger women, both in the defense business and in those starting their own small businesses, because I've worn both sets of shoes. I also serve on the board of House of Ruth Maryland. It's an institution that provides both shelter and legal services to women and children escaping abusive relationships. I've been involved with that board for more than a decade, and my husband Mark and I are funders of that organization. It's actually had a very interesting year. It's developed a partnership with the Ravens, and the Ravens have now helped us fund programs for men for anger management, which have begun to be quite successful. We started that in Baltimore with a lot of the Ravens guys helping us. And that's been a very good program, and I'm very proud of that. In sum, I'm running because I believe I have a unique set of skills. I believe that the country could use them at this point. I believe that our district could use them at this point, and I'm offering myself to help you if I can. Thank you.